I was thinking back on our first few years, meeting and gathering together and sharing ideas in Suzette's lovely dining room. And I thought, wow, thank heavens with Zoom, we can carry on, right? But now we have these frustrations. Anyway, we're glad those of you who are here, and we'll just try to carry on. Nissa, do you want to add a couple of things about the chatting or whatever?
I'll just be here in the background. I'll admit people in the waiting room. If anybody wants to direct chat me, if they have a friend who's having trouble getting in, I can help communicate with them. But I'll just take care of we'll ask everybody to mute themselves while Catherine is talking for the best audio quality. And I can help mute people in the background. And if you have any questions or have any comments as she's presenting, you want to put them in the chat window, we can talk about those at the end, at the Q&A portion. So, and we're recording, so if you have to drop out and want to view it later, we'll send out a link to the.
Awesome. Julia, hi, welcome.
Hi.
Again, we're sorry for the delay and confusion. We all think we have this mastered, and we don't. Anyway, we're so delighted, Kathy, that you're willing to talk with us this morning. And we're so delighted too that Nancy will give a formal introduction. I know, Nancy, you've been a part of this wonderful group and have worked at the Mann Center for Performing Arts for what, 20 years before you retired? And yes, a lot of leadership positions, including executive vice president, I think. So yes, you're a wonderful one to introduce, inspirational guest.
So I can't thank you, Chris, so much. And I cannot think of anybody, as she well knows, that I would rather introduce and be prouder to introduce than my dear colleague and very dear friend, Kathy Cahill. Kathy and I worked together for about 10 years. I don't know that we called it work. It was great fun. And the Mann was incredibly lucky because Kathy came to us in 2008. She has had an amazing career in the performing and cultural arts. Kathy is a cellist by training, as it were, and was the leader in many major performing arts organizations, including the Toronto Symphony, where she was their executive director, the New York Philharmonic, where she was general manager. And Kathy was also the festival artistic director at Chicago's Grant Park Music Festival. Wow. So she came to the Mann with a wealth of experience, and I don't mean to say she, you, Catherine M., and brought all of her knowledge and background in classical music, as well as the performing arts, to Philadelphia. And if I may say, Philadelphia is so much better since her arrival and her taking over the reins of the Mann, which really has been my pleasure to be a part of. There's so many things that Kathy has achieved over the last number of years that it's hard to know where to begin, but just to give you a few highlights. First and most importantly, she has righted the ship. And one of Kathy's goals was to make the Mann not just known in Philadelphia, as we all know its legacy has been, but to really take its reputation national. And she has done a most brilliant job of doing that. When Kathy arrived at the Mann, our budget was about $6 million. And Jill, you can tell me if my numbers are right, but I believe we're now at about $26 million in 2020, which is an incredible accomplishment for a nonprofit performing arts organization. The Mann has managed to have balanced budgets over the last 5 years or so, which is also a major feat when you think about what has been going on, particularly since COVID has hit us. I had the distinct pleasure and really, I can't tell you all how much we accomplished and how much fun it was, but in Kathy's tenure, we completed, I believe, Kathy, you tell me if I'm wrong, a total about $57 million in capital fundraising, and also for endowment, special initiatives, facility upgrades, a variety of things. That was a major accomplishment for the institution. And we also created an endowment for the first time for the Mann. So those are just a few of the highlights. And one other thing that I think is very important is that through Kathy's efforts and leadership, the Mann really began to establish and cement a relationship with our West Parkside community. That has been critically important because that was a neighborhood, as many of you know, that really nobody was paying much attention to. And through Kathy's leadership, the Mann has made a great commitment to that community because it really is an anchor in West Parkside. Kathy was very much ahead of the curve in that, and it's something that I think all of us who have stood in her limelight have been very, very proud of. So that's kind of the nickel tour of Catherine M. Cahill at the Mann Center. So it is with great pride that I turn it over to Kathy. And I hope I've captured everything.
Well, thanks, Nance. To be perfectly honest, one of the lines that I have borrowed from Nancy, and there are many that are sort of quintessential Nancy Newman lines, but this one I use regularly and attribute to her. It's a team sport. And I am here to tell you, Nancy and I were a team. It wasn't like I worked for her or she worked for me. We were just a team. We cried together, we laughed together, we picked up trash together, we schlepped plants out to the planters together, you name it, we did it. And again, part of the team sport was the incredible chairman that hired me, Mary's wonderful husband, Justin Klein. So it also is a family. And Justin would call me Sunday mornings just to say, how are we doing? Because we had some rough days. 2008, was when the bottom dropped out and the Mann was not well prepared yet at that point quite for that kind of hit. Many groups weren't. We were not alone. And so we had some real remedial work to do to get the ship reset, get the course redirected, but we all did it together. And we really are here today because of truly everyone's participation. The board, staff, volunteers, donors, elected officials, everybody got in the boat and rowed together to that sort of distant shore. So lots to share with you today about that journey. And I asked Jill, who is my incredible right-hand man, and believe me, when they say behind every throne, is a woman, well, behind the Mann throne is this young woman, Jill Stone, who absolutely makes everything work flawlessly. So I really can't thank her enough for helping me be prepared for today, because believe me, and I was watching all of us struggle with the technical stuff. I'm right in the dinosaur club with all of you. I don't know how to do any of it. It's these young people like Jill and Nisa who know how to get things working. So Jill has really been another partner in crime to me throughout my journey at the Mann. She only started with us 5 years ago as an intern and has made her way up at lightning speed through the organization. So with that said, if you're okay with you, two things. I had asked that a document be shared with you. It's called Our Story, and it was just a snapshot, well, many pages, of the Mann as it sort of was, is, and plans to be. And if there are questions that we either can't get to today, or the stuff on the screen is like microscopic because you can't read it, and I can't read it all to you because there's a lot, that little document called Our Story, I think will have quite a bit of information just to sort of tell our story. So if it's okay with you, we'll turn the baton over to Jill and start our little PowerPoint, because I just thought it'd be easy to kind of give you a sense of a series of thoughts that I put together. And before I do that, I'm assuming, I never should assume anything, right? It makes an ass of you and me, that all of you have been to the Mann at some point. Is there anybody who hasn't yet? Okay, well, that makes this conversation much easier. Because when we start to get into it, it depends on when you were there last, quite frankly, that some of the things that we'll be showing you will either resonate or you haven't seen yet. So Jill, shall we start? And hopefully, can everybody see this? That's a picture of me about 10 years ago. So I think I need a new headshot, but until such time, that's the one I got. So here we go for the journey, slide one. So I thought I'd just share the story of the Mann with you all and the journey that Nancy and I journeyed on together. A little bit about the campus, and that's where I'm kind of reflecting on things you may have seen or may not have seen. Programming, our world-class programming, which of course is what has made our history and the institution as distinct and as acclaimed as it is. And also to really put a spotlight on our education and community engagement work, which is a good portion of what we do and a core element of our mission statement, but doesn't always get the limelight as one can appreciate that it should. So let's do a little journey through the campus. So I always love to tell a little history about the building. Opened in 1976 for the American Bicentennial. And it wasn't called the Mann Music Center or the Mann Center for the Performing Arts. It was called the Robin Hood Dell West, because the earlier organization for which this entity, as we now know, in 1976 originated was on the east side of the park. Many of you probably remember it as the Dell. It's still there, known as the Dell East now. And that's where the concert series began. And that concert series existed until 1975 there in a band shell that was not covered. There was no roof, not over the artists, fundamentally, and certainly not over the audience. And so Frederick R. Mann, the name we all know the venue by, is here in the picture to the left, standing next to none other than Mayor Rizzo. Freddie Mann, larger than life personality. I never had the privilege of knowing him, but he was the impresario for the series for many decades over at the old Dell, and was instrumental in convincing the city of Philadelphia for the 1976 bicentennial to build a world-class performing arts amphitheater. And there they are standing over a model. You'll see the picture below is sort of the excavation of what that area began to look like when they were excavating where the Mann now sits in West Parkside. You can see the Memorial Hall, or now known as the Please Touch Museum, dome in the distance on that black and white picture in the far left. The image to the right is one of the renderings of what they dreamed of to be the actual pavilion as we know it today, but that's not exactly the one that we know and love today and cherish, but it was one of the renderings. So next. Here it is being built. There it is. There's some of the scaffolding on the left-hand side. You can see it sort of with all the ironwork going up. And those iron trusses that support the building as we now know it today are in great, stable, sturdy condition. We'll talk about that later. To your far right, you can see the man in the circle down at the bottom and the excavation of the hillside, the Great Lawn, as we love to call it. Look at that opening series, the Bicentennial Popular Series, James Taylor, Barry Manilow, the Carpenters, Linda Ronstadt. Some of those artists are still performing today, and you'll see later about the history with James Taylor. Next, Jill. So here we are, built in 1976, world-class performing arts center. What made it distinctive was air conditioning put on the stage. Imagine that. No other outdoor venue in the country had air conditioning. And because Freddie Mann knew how hot it was, he wanted to have the air conditioning on the stage because, of course, it was built for the Great Philadelphia Orchestra. Not only was this venue, and that's what it looks like today, not only is this building acoustically one of the finest in outdoor performing arts center sheds, as they're referred to, because it's all wooden side, which they wouldn't build today at all, but also the sight lines. I don't care where you sit at the Mann, if you're on the first floor or up in the balcony, the sight lines are perfect. There's not an obstructed view anywhere. And the acoustics are considered some of the finest in the nation. So fast forward, we get to 2005, and Nancy's going to get to talk a little bit about this, Nance, but my predecessor, Peter Lane, in around 2001, recognized that the campus at that time was already getting old, and needs and changes and tastes of audiences and artists were certainly evolving from 1976, and embarked on a major master plan for the entire campus and for property beyond what was then the current footprint. So the first campaign, which happened before my time, Nancy, you get to talk about this, was the one that was 2005, 6, and 7. You raised $15 million to really focus on some of the elements that affected our patrons most. Nancy, you want to talk about that? Did we lose her? Nancy? Is she there, Jill?
I am. I was
muted, yeah.
muted, Kathy.
Okay.
I think you said it. It was we did 15 million to add new bathrooms, just lots of new amenities that would serve the most number of people at the time, and that was really the beginning of the new Mann, as it were.
Well, it was more than bathrooms, Nancy. You guys, you added all
concessions.
Concessions and the donor garden, which many of you I know visited over the years. There are two beautiful rooms, the Bowden Room and the Field Education Center, that are multi-purpose rooms for entertaining and education. They're indoors, they're air conditioned. Our donors love them. There's bars, there's specialty service. That was a major beginning transformation.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, and now I've joined in 2008, and we were starting to take a look at beyond those front-facing patron amenities, what would we need within the campus to address what were signature experiences for the Mann, which is the lawn. like most people, when they think about the Mann, they think of those evenings under the stars. They think of concerts with family members sitting on the lawn. Well, our lawn wasn't in such great shape, and it is the Russell Palmer lawn, Wendy, as you know. And we embarked on another 15 million or so campaign during 2011, 12, and 13. We upgraded the lawn, we changed the pitch, we expanded it, we took out what were old seats and put in new seats. That's number 2 on this screen. You can see those are the terrace seats. You'll see the number 4 on the screen. We added video screens to the back of the pavilion so that people on the lawn and other parts of the campus could actually see what was happening on stage. We put in a new state-of-the-art sound system. As Nancy and I were fond of saying, the sound system we inherited was so old that you couldn't get parts for it anymore. So it was desperately time. We're in the business of music, right? We needed a new sound system. And we expanded the campus and took in some more property that you'll see in a minute to do something which was very experimental. And I mean, you remember this, Nancy, we were unsure what it was going to be like, but we were going to take the dive, and we added a whole extra portion of the campus at the top of the hill and added a second stage called the Skyline stage. There'll be images of that coming shortly. And we expanded a new promenade with lighting that's close to number 3 on the image there, between number 1 and number 3. That's this whole walkway there, which is really quite spectacular now as far as wanting to get a sense of the campus as you walk. So a number of things we did in 2011, 12, and 13. Jill, next, I'll quickly show you some of those pictures. Jill, you can see the promenade image there on the left. You can see an image below that of the video screen. The picture on the right is enough to give you a headache, but it was actually a lot of the work that was being done by our architects and engineers and designers to figure out what we had to do with sound systems and other electrical and engineering things in order to get the screens in and the sound system in. Next. I mentioned the Skyline stage. You'll see it mapped up there on that little left-hand map. We did not have access to that property before. So when we embarked on this, we went to the city and said, will you allow us to take in some more land because we'd like to expand and create a second stage? And so we did. And the picture on the lower right-hand side is again a rendering of what that experience is like with the Great Lawn expansion, the promenade, new lighting, video screens, et cetera, et cetera. It was really a transformational moment for the Mann. It changed the campus's feel, look, expanse, and capacity to attract new audiences, which is what we were hoping to do with the Skyline stage. And you'll see some of the statistics on that later. Next, Jill. Skyline stage, I mentioned it to you. There you go on the lower right-hand corner of this image. That was the rendering we got from the designers. What you see to the left is actually what got built, considerably bigger, almost 3 times bigger than what we originally envisioned. What's special about the Skyline stage is not only is it at the top of the hill with great skyline views of the city, but there are no seats. So it's a standing room audience only, so we call it general admission. And there are lots of artists and young people in particular who much prefer this kind of setting than to a seated undercover institution of 6,000 seats. Next, Jill. So when we finished and put that to bed, we took a deep breath and said, okay, what's next? And the building itself, the main pavilion, hadn't really been touched since it was built in '76. And it was time that it needed a lot of attention. We did a big study on what needed to happen there, and a lot of work, as it turned out, needed to happen after 40 years. And so we went about raising money for that, and we launched a campaign to replace the wood and the turn metal. That's the outside cladding. You'll see that in a minute. We put in ceiling fans. If there was one thing we were not going to value engineer out, were ceiling fans, because the Mann, as you know, can be pretty toasty in the summer, especially in the balcony, but also on the main floor. And the ceiling fans have been game changers. We did a lot of structural repairs. We replaced all the seats in the boxes. We put ventilation ducts up in the balcony so that we could get rid of a lot of the heat up there. It was about 7 to 9 degrees hotter in the balcony on any given night. And there were lots of nights where it'd be over 100 degrees up there. It was impossible. So we had to cool that down. New railings with lights, soundboards, light boards, and some other things. Next, Jill. These are fun pictures. I'm going to show you some before and after pictures. These are the old seats that you see on the right-hand side. They were a combination of blue and red. And we were told, this is one of those man myths or folklore, I'm not sure which, that they were those colors because of the bicentennial and being patriotic. All I can tell you is the red seats were always the hardest ones to sell. And if you were an artist on stage looking out, they would scream empty. So we were delighted when it was time to get rid of the screaming red seats. Next. What you don't realize is how big the Mann is undercover. And I remember when these seats were all taken out, we were just sort of blown away at the size. And that is where all the seats are all gone. The pit seats were all gone. That's the stage in the forefront. To the bottom right-hand side, you can start to see we were taking off all the turn metal on the outside of the building because we had so much wood damage from water infiltration after 40 years. Next, Jill. There's our favorite ceiling fans. I'm telling you, when they're on high, it could be like it's a hurricane in there, and they are silent. There, I mentioned to you, we had the inside of the building is made of wood. You can see there's a lot of cedar wood that's throughout the building that were designed specifically for the acoustics. The blessing of the wood is the great acoustics. The curse of the wood is it's impossible to get to repair because of the ceiling's heights. And when it's wet, and we've had a lot of water infiltration over the years, so it's been a major project to deal with the wood. The right-hand side of your images on the bottom lower portion are the color of the seats that went in. We all picked dill green. Nancy helped pick them with me, and they are gorgeous. You'll see some pictures later. And above those seats, you see some lions, and I'm going to come back to the lions in a minute. But this was a very important component of, again, looking at the Mann, not only from the audience's point of view, but how to make it more gracious, how to showcase some of the best art that's in Philadelphia. Our public art is second to none to almost any city in America, and also to create a sense of arrival of the Mann. Next, Jill. There's a great shot. That was the work being done on the outside of the building. Look at all that. And there's the walkways you can see are stripped, the balcony walkways. The picture to the bottom right there's your before and here's your after. You'll notice at the top of the roof, there's 4 boxes. Those are those heat dissipation sections that we cut out of the balcony to get the heat out, and it has really worked. Next, Jill. So there's your blue seats. The red ones you can't see in this picture. They're in the back of the house, but this is what it now looks like to the right of the house. And it is a game changer. The Mann is actually inside and out quite beautiful. And what you'll notice in this image, if you look to your right, on those wooden panels to the right of the stage, there's a screen. We also put video screens inside the pavilion. So we had a real issue, of course, with a lot of our ADA patrons. Artists like to have their patrons stand. So if you've ever been at the Mann for a popular rock and roll concert, people often will stand. Well, the folks that are sitting in the ADA sections, particularly with wheelchairs, they can't see. They physically can't see because people block them. So these screens were really important, not only for the audience experience, but also to help address the ADA issue so that we could make sure that whatever we had on our stage was accessible to all audiences. Next, Jill. There's some of the work. You see the before is on your right hand there, so those lovely red seats, and the sort of beat up boxes, and then you can see the work being done and just the expanse and the change already of just all the beautiful green dill seats. Next. There are some more images of some of the work being done on the walkways to your left. Those were in really, really bad condition. You can see how unhappy they were. And there they are to your right when they finished the work. And those handrails all light up at night, and it's really quite magical, very special. Next. And the other thing that we wanted to do, and I mentioned a sense of arrival and graciousness, we took another part of the property that was very dormant and built what we called a baby sister to our big crescendo tent. I imagine all of you at some point have dined maybe at the top of the hill in the big white tent that you can't miss when you're on our campus. That seats 400 people for dinner. We wanted to have an option for something smaller and for alternative use. And so we built this tent, Acclaim, it's called Acclaim, and it can seat 200. But we're also using it to address the strategic imperative of the Mann, which was addressing what we call dark nights, meaning we had a lot of evenings where there's nothing happening on campus, no shows, no concerts, no activity, and we need to generate more revenue to sustain the cost of this 22-acre campus. And so we designed this, and we were inspired, quite frankly, by Nancy Newman's own daughter, who had her wedding at the Mann, gosh, what, 7 years ago now, Nance? Something like that, 6, 7 years ago. And we realized that we had the real possibility of doing more business along that line, but we didn't have all the facilities necessary. So this white tent Acclaim is part of our strategy of attracting graduations, corporate events, private events. We've had all-day yoga events, nonprofits rented out for fundraisers. And we use different parts of the campus now. And it's a really important part of our business model. And if I may just put in a plug, if you're looking to do an event, we have a whole campaign right now called Turn Your Event Inside Out. because you can't be indoors for large events, but the Mann is outdoors and we have the capacity to handle more, and we have it down to a science. So if anybody needs a place to come and do an event, give me a call. Next, back to the lions that I mentioned earlier. These are very special. Nancy mentioned in passing that we established an endowment. Well, let me be really clear. We established an endowment in Nancy's name after 20 remarkable years at the Mann. And we raised over $1 million in the endowment. And the results of that investment allowed us to take these lions that were lost in front of the old box office, which had become very dormant when the gates that you see here were put in place in 2007. And these magnificent lions were sitting in front of the old box office. They have a very important history. They were cast in 1846 in St. Petersburg by, of all things, in America, Philadelphia, a philanthropist and industrialist named Andrew Eastwick. And he was instrumental in having the locomotives built and tracks laid between St. Petersburg and Moscow. So he had this foundry. And he cast these magnificent lions. They're actually modeled after lions that the Medici family owned in the 1400s in Italy, in Florence. And he brought them then to Philadelphia in 1849 to put in front of his house. He had a mansion located near Bartram's Garden in Southwest Philadelphia at the time. And he had them there. And then when 1876 came for the centennial celebration of America, they were moved to Memorial Hall, which was the old art museum, right? And then he died, and then when his widow died at the turn of the century, she donated these to the city. They kind of gotten forgotten over at Memorial Hall, which went through a very dark period, and then they were moved to the Mann in 1976, and then basically forgotten where they were moved. So we decided it was time to give them a facelift. We got them restored, we got them moved, we had new plinths made, and they are dedicated to Nancy because of her endowment making it possible to bring these magnificent lions to the Mann. They're right in the front gates. They're a sense of arrival. I don't know if any of you remember when you were kids going to the Wanamakers and you'd say, meet me at the Eagle. Well, meet us at the Lions. That was the idea. And they really are spectacular. And they greet us and everyone now when you come to the Mann. So we refer to them in-house. She doesn't know this is Nancy's Lions. And then here you are once you come back in the house. This is what we look like today, restored. We still have some more work to do, a lot more work to do, but we've come a long way, baby, as they say. So this is the Mann as you know it today, with the skyline stage, with the renovated pavilion, with lions greeting you, with all the other things that I've discussed. So it's been an exciting journey to continue to create an environment that people love to come to and have a wonderful, memorable experience. So that's a little bit about the campus. Any questions before we move into the fun stuff, which is programming? Nancy, what did I forget? She may have gone to get to her car. I think she may have gone to her car. Okay, well, we wanted to move on into programming, if that's okay with everybody. And I just thought I'd show you a clip that we prepared as part of our virtual gala this year. We went virtual like everybody because there really wasn't much alternative. And this is just one little snippet of an hour-long gala we put together, but it gives you a flavor of some of the iconic artists in the history. Oops, what happened? There we go. The history of the Mann. And some of the artists. So Jill, can you start this at the beginning? Is that possible?
Yes, of the programming clip?
Yeah, so we're going to just show you a little clip from our gala about some of our programming. We'll get into some more slides. So I thought we should have a little music.
Who doesn't love these iconic stars from Mann performances over the years? The Mann is where the stars come to play. Oh, the memories.
Thanks, Jill. I hope everybody could hear that. Kind of a fun little walk through some of the iconic artists that have graced our stage. More to come on that. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Just some statistics here. There's a lot. Again, this is in that packet we sent you called Our Story, but a few things just to call your attention to that we're really proud about. We serve over 30,000 young children every year with free programming, with young people's concerts, workshops, and all kinds of other things we do year round. We have over 100 events annually, which is a very full plate for the Mann. We have 4 stages. I want to talk about that for just a second, that we've now moved into. And our Skyline stage, the one that I was showing you earlier where people stand, that one, 57% of, on average, 57% of the folks attending that venue, that stage, are new to the Mann each year, which was really important as far as getting young people and attracting younger and newer audiences. Really a key focal point of ours, and we've been pretty happy about that. Our audience does skew younger. You can see in the age ranges, 25 to 34. That is considerably younger than most of our cultural brethren. And that's important, again, for our future. And we actually have a fairly affluent audience when you look at the statistics of income. So it's important to know who we have coming, what their needs are, and how we can appeal to them. So just quite a bit, we serve over 200,000 people annually that come through our gates. So we've grown that and continue to focus on that. And when we get to what happened in the summer of 2020, certainly those numbers are going to look different. Next, Jill. This is one of my favorite shots. These are just iconic artists throughout the year. So, you know, whether it's the Great Philadelphia Orchestra, for whom this venue was built and have been our resident ensemble from day one. You saw James Taylor. We've had the Metropolitan Opera, Yo-Yo Ma, Tony Bennett, Van Cliburn, Zubin made a very important international conductor, made his North American debut with the Mann. Mormon Tabernacle Choir, John Legend, Paul Simon, Steely Dan, Fish, for all you Fish friends out there. You know, the Boston Pops, Willie Nelson, Alison Krauss, you name it. It's a who's who that has graced the Mann stages over these many years. And there are very few places that can rival the caliber of what we've been able to bring to our audiences. So we're very proud of this page. This is one of my favorite screens. I love to boast. This is only the last 9 years. Of course, 2020 doesn't count since we didn't have a season. But from 2010 to 2014, we were nominated 3 times for Polestar for the best major outdoor venue. Polestar is the industry journal that governs our music industry, and to be recognized in that is high praise. 2015, this was one of my all-time favorites. This came out of the blue. Polestar ranked the Mann 49th out of 100, 49th out of 100 in ticket sales for amphitheater venues worldwide. So that's pretty darn good if you think about the world stage that we're competing on. And up to 2018, we won the best entertainment venue, the best live music venue, and the best music venue for all categories for PHL 17 top spot. So we keep trying to garner those awards and brag about them a little, but we're proud of those. So next page. Back to the artistic and horizontal programming. I don't know how many of you were with us for the performance you see here on the left. This was a major gala. We partnered with the South African company who did the puppets for Warhorse. And they created a whole, you can see it's gigantic, staging with the South African Ballet Company of Stravinsky's Firebird. And the Philadelphia Orchestra was on stage. This became a national commission across the country. We were a lead commissioner in it, and we brought this to the Mann stage. But our Philadelphia premieres, including having had the Metropolitan Opera, the Kirov Ballet, the American Ballet Theater. We started commissioning in 2011, and in 2011, we commissioned a young Chinese-American composer named Du Yun. She did a theatrical piece for us called Angel's Bones. It went on to win a Pulitzer. Started at the Mann, commissioned by the Mann. You saw a picture of the Eagles in that movie clip. We decided when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, we had to do something for Philadelphia. So we partnered with the NFL and created a whole program and curated a whole evening of celebration with the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Eagles. I'm going to tell you about Soundwalk in a minute, one of our new projects that we're pivoting to. And last year we commissioned a very important African-American choreographer named Bill T. Jones, if anyone is into dance, to do a major work at the Mann. We were the co-commissioner. The project then went national to New York and then international. And it's called Deep Blue Sea, and it's bringing his dance company with new music, incredible theatrics, and working with our community of non-dancers to invite 100 people throughout our community to participate in this work and learn and grow. And it's a very exciting project. It was supposed to happen in 2020, didn't happen, so it's on for future seasons. So we're commissioning new works, we're doing experimental works, we're doing innovative works, and we're very committed to doing that and making sure that we find partners who want to help champion those works so they have other life in other settings. So they're not just one-shot done deals at the Mann. I mentioned Zubin Mehta under Landmark Performances made his North American debut, the international debut of Yo-Yo Ma as well. So the one that's really fun is the very last one, and it's very small print. I don't know how many of you have come to our movies at the Mann series where we showcase a giant screen on the stage. The orchestra plays live to iconic movies with fantastic scores by, say, John Williams or Hans Zimmer. And I see some heads nodding. They're incredibly successful. 10,000 people come with their families. We were able to secure we were the first out of the gate trying to do this kind of programming, and we were able to secure the first world premiere of the Harry Potter movie series that was being brought to the marketplace in that format with the Philadelphia Orchestra at the Mann in 2016. So we're pretty proud of being ahead of the curve and being innovative and trying to find new ways to engage audiences of all ages and all stripes. Fast forward to 2020, no season. Obviously, COVID-19, we knew in March we were in trouble. We started doing a series of scenario plans about what would we do. And ultimately, the Mann remained closed for obvious reasons. But we wanted to try to remain current in some capacity. So in partnership with the Roots, sorry, wrong shot here. I'll come back to that. But in partnership with the Philadelphia Orchestra, we brought them in August. We got Yannick Nézet-Séguin, their music director, to come. He hadn't been conducting for mucho months because of COVID. They filmed on the Mann. You can see how we brought the stage to life. Everyone is socially distanced. We have the largest stage of its size in the region. It's an enormous size stage. When you see orchestra shows, it looks smaller because we have a concert acoustic shell. That is down, it's not here, to give the stage as much space as it can. These were streamed through the orchestra's platform. And one of my favorite quotes is the one here from Peter Dobrin, where he said, "The camera move showed off the Mann as a virtual urban Sylvan venue in as lovely a glamour shot as ever was designed. And the transition sent an unmistakable emotional message about everything good in our town." You know, we didn't pay him to write that, but amen, we'll take it. So we were pleased to have the orchestra come and do some digital work. Jill, next. We also partnered with the Eagles. This is fun. The image to the left, on the eve of the launch of this NFL season, the Eagles came to us and wanted to put their name in lights above the skyline. And we said, well, you can do it from the Mann, but can you also, while you're up there with all those hundreds of drones, could you throw in one for the Mann too? So there we are in lights at midnight above the Mann skyline stage overlooking the city, the Mann, which was pretty darn cool. The image to the right is the Roots Picnic. We brought them the year before for a big festival, which we'll come back to in my comment on 4 stages. We filmed them very quietly because we didn't want anybody to know. They didn't want anybody to know near the end of June. And then we did a streaming on YouTube with Michelle Obama as the host to get out the vote with the Roots. It got over 500,000 views from the Mann. So we were pretty proud of that. The gentleman to the bottom right is Amos Lee. He's one of Philly's own. He came and filmed at the top of the hill at late at night to get more streaming content out. So we've been trying to figure out, if we can't bring audiences, is how can we reach audiences where they are. So speaking of that, next we have jumped into a really exciting project called Sound Walk. And this is truly an event in a response to COVID and pivoting when we didn't have a season. It's a nationwide effort. It's a Mann co-commission. It is showcasing the work of a young American composer named Ellen Reed. She's a sound artist, and she's a Pulitzer Prize winner. And this is what we're calling a socially distanced public artwork. I'll explain it to you in a minute. And basically, you just need your cell phone and you need your walking shoes. Okay. And let me tell you what it is. And then we're going to show you a little clip because I think it's easier to see what it is in action than me explaining it. But what it basically is a GPS driven product that we put on your phone. You just download it for free, and you're going to walk in parts of Fairmount Park around the Mann. And as you walk and you come up to certain points, there's going to be music being played that sort of incorporates the spirit. If you're walking past a pond, if you're walking past a forest, if you're walking past a playground. And it's all free and it changes each time. You could come out each day and stand in the same spot and something else is going to play. And we're working in partnership with our own great Philadelphia Orchestra to make the recordings to put into this project. So we're going to launch it in June of 2021 in Fairmount Park. As I mentioned, composer Ellen Reed, our Pulitzer Prize winner, she's been down, loves the man, the park. It is a co-commission of a public art piece that will incorporate all of our beautiful landscape. It is a full sound and vision experience that uses music to illuminate the natural environment. And it's there to create and encourage calm reflection and introspection. Various locations within Fairmount Park will be, quote, activated, and users can experience Soundwalk through a GPS-enabled app downloaded on your phone. It's all free. And the co-commissioners that we've been in partnership with is Central Park with the New York Philharmonic, my old haunt, the Mann and Fairmount Park, and our own great fabulous Philadelphia Orchestra. In Los Angeles, the Kronos String Quartet in Griffith Park, Saratoga Performing Arts Center, Wolf Trap in Vienna, Virginia, and the Brit Music Festival in Oregon. So with that said, if you indulge me, we'll play a little clip to kind of give you a sense of what the heck I'm talking about.
Okay. So you download the app and enter the park. And wherever you enter the park, there'll be sound that follows you. The sound will shift based on where you're walking. Maybe you turn on a path and it'll shift into a different kind of soundscape. The composition should unfold around you no matter which way you're going. If you want to go for 5 minutes, that's fine. If you want to go for 2 hours, that's fine. There isn't one right way to do it. However you do it is the right way. However you want to design your experience, the experience will fit you. I just hope that people stay a while.
Okay, Jill, thank you. So any questions about Soundwalk? Isn't it cool? Again, speaking to the man wanting to be at a cutting edge innovator, pivoting in this virtual world and trying to make people still get exercise, experience our beautiful park, and world-class music by the Philadelphia Orchestra, and an important female composer of her generation. So moving on, I said that I wanted to talk a little bit about our education and community engagement program, sometimes our best kept secret. We embarked on an 18-month study near the end of Nancy's tenure to really take a step back and look at what we were doing in the world of education and community work, and really wanted to understand the lay of the land as the current challenges we're facing our young people, our school systems, our community at large. And we did an 18-month in-depth beneficiary-driven study that focused on partnerships and collaborations. And out of that 52 interview process and a lot of work and research, we came up and our board unanimously adopted a partnership program. Hold on one second, I gotta close the door, one sec. Sorry about that, a little noise outside my doors here. Hopefully you can still hear me. And we came up with 3 core areas that we wanted to focus on. And the first was something called out of school time. And one of the things that we've learned, and I'm sure many of you know this if you are at all in the world of education, there's something called summer slide, where young people, particularly those in underserved communities, lose the level of learning that they have left their school year with in, say, June. And when they come back in September, their abilities and their skills have diminished. They have not increased. Obviously, young people with more means have the opportunities to go to summer camp and have different levels of engagement. So summer slide's a real problem, particularly for underserved communities. And we wanted to start addressing that in part system, as well as understanding what were the needs of young children and middle school and high school children when they leave the classroom and before they go home at night. What happens to that downtime after school, before dinner? Next area we wanted to focus on was something called creative placemaking. How could the man look at its beautiful campus and think about using it in more creative ways that benefit the community? We'll come back to those circles. And the last thing that we heard loud and clear through the study is our community and our school system telling us we have so many talented young people, but they have no place to go and grow and learn to develop workforce skills that can actually provide them with an actual living that is one that they can support a family on. So we went to work in finding partners because we recognize that, frankly, the man can't do any of this alone, nor should it, and partners and collaborations to launch these concepts of out of school time, creative placemaking, and workforce development with an eye to understanding who we were benefiting, how could we define success, how could we evaluate outcomes and continue to grow and evolve these programs. So where we are right now is we launched last summer an all-city orchestra summer academy with the school district and the Philadelphia Orchestra live at the Mann. We launched this year in the fall our first Motion and Music Academy program, which is focused on drumming, choir, and dance. And we just launched in January this month, 2 weeks ago, our first workforce development program at Overbrook High, teaching the music industry skills to young people. We also launched a Mann Fellowship program for middle schoolers to learn and participate in many of our activities at the Mann throughout the course of the summer. And we ultimately are going to be working with Live Nation, our new commercial booking partner, on adult venue staff professional development. That is in the works, but obviously losing the summer of 2020 had an impact on their ability to launch some of these programs. We've had a good internship program for young graduates out of college looking to get into the arts administration. That was suspended this year because of the lack of a season, but that is back on the docket for the future. And then the other areas of creative placemaking is focusing on urban greeting and community festivals and young people's concerts. So those are some of the things that you see on the circle that we are deeply engaged in. And even with COVID and all the things that we had to deal with it, we have pivoted to virtual where necessary and continue to make sure that we are delivering what we have promised. Jill, next. The other thing that we had to do was figure out how to keep the brand active in the marketplace and share educational content and keep our audiences engaged since we don't have concerts. And so we launched something new in March of 2020 called the Mann Music Room. And it was originally centered around education and community engagement content. However, it was reimagined a few months later as a fully branded digital content house and includes the various channels that you see here. The Learn channel on the left-hand side is our education content room with teaching artist videos and digital lessons. Then they explore global cultures. The Vault, which is lots of fun, is a blog series. And it's coming out every Friday on our social media channels that highlights stories of the Mann's iconic history on and off stage. Stream is the one that's the furthest over almost, and that is for viewers who are able to connect with their favorite artists and teachers. That's where they can actually go in and enjoy performances and exclusive conversations that we curate. Remember, the one in the middle is the corner of the Mann Music Room, which provides viewers access to our library of past favorite Mann memories. So you'll see highlights and stories from the past. The forum is still a work in progress. And basically, this is a fairly new digital initiative that we're currently building and branding. Our Mann Music Room Learn videos already have had over 50,000 views. So it's a work in progress. And we're excited about the ability to keep reaching audiences near and far. So next, Jill, I'll give you some samples of some of the work that's in the education arena. The All Summer Music Academy I mentioned to you. We did it live last year. And it was highly successful. But this year, when it became apparent we were unable to do it in person, we really had to determine, could we pursue an on-campus experience for young instrumentalists in a digital way? And I have to give credit to our education vice president, Naomi Gonzalez, and her staff member, Alec Fertel. They figured out how to, next image please, Jill, to take what was done in person and create an online summer music academy. And there she be, that's what it looks like. We were blessed to get Yannick, who was sequestered up in Montreal, to also participate in this. And you can see we have a lot of young people here, a lot from disadvantaged neighborhoods who never have an opportunity to go to fancy summer music camps. And we are thrilled to be that showcase an opportunity for them to learn and grow during the summer. And the next one, we were so pleased with the success of this. We got some national attention that I have to brag and share with you. Jill, you want to push go on this.
Finally tonight, some young musicians who prove that even with coronavirus and all that's come with it, music is still medicine for the soul. Here is Jim Axelrod.
It is a stirring rendition of Bizet's Farandole, made all the more moving by who's playing it. 90 middle and high school students in Philadelphia, part of the All-City Orchestra Summer Academy, who are not going to let a pandemic stop the music.
I think that kind of helped us realize that no matter what setback we were faced with, that if we had a good team of people and everyone put the work in, we could overcome it.
For 2 weeks, 37 musicians, half from the Philadelphia Orchestra, tutored kids.
How are you doing, Sonia?
Like 8th grade violinist Sonia Doby
Got a little nervous.
over the computer.
Just enjoy playing.
And 9th grade cellist Grace Polito,
I'm playing at the beginning of Dance Recipe.
providing them masterclass instruction with enthusiasm and passion. Catherine Cahill is the president of the Mann Center for the Performing Arts, a program sponsor.
If that doesn't bring a smile to your face during these uncertain times, I don't think anything will.
In the final performance, each student recorded their part by themselves and were then edited together alongside video of other parts of their summer vacations.
I thought it was really fun, and I'd really like to do it next year, hopefully in person by that time.
And that, Grace, would be music to all of our ears. Jim Axelrod, CBS News.
Music indeed. Finally tonight.
All right. So a little showcase of how we pivoted from in-person to online, and how fortunate were we to get a national story on CBS. So there is a silver lining in all of this. The next image shows the one of the programs I just mentioned, our Motion and Music Academy. And this is a program focusing on dance, drumming, and choir. We did start it out at the Mann. This is in the Acclaim tent that I mentioned earlier that you saw in the pictures. But then we had to go completely virtual when our partner school, Global Leadership Academy, who's the flagship school for this program, went all virtual. So this is launching, and our partners include organizations such as the Pennsylvania Ballet and others. Again, you can see we're dealing with, in this case, middle school students. We have one third grader because her sister was in middle school, and she said that she had to come because her mother wouldn't let her come without her younger sister. So we do have one third grader in it. That's fine. And we are hoping to get this on back in person. Now it's virtual. Next, Jill. I mentioned the music industry program. This is a training program that we just launched in partnership with Live Nation and Overbrook High School to train young people to learn the skills necessary to hopefully get a job in the industry. We are also partnering with IATSE, which is the Stagehands Union, so that these young people can go into their mentorship program. I will give you a statistic that is very sobering. Overbrook High School has right now 5 kids that are identified to graduate in their senior year. 5 out of school of hundreds. So this is a school in our catchment that has a lot of needs, and we are excited about launching this. Right now it's virtual. And again, I mentioned partnerships and collaborations. You can see some of the partners here in this as well. So this is up and running, and stay tuned on this one. We're excited. From a community relations standpoint, we've had great success over the years of celebrating Black History Month and MLK Day as part of our commitment to community. Everything's gone virtual again because obviously we can't be in person. And I thought I'd share this with you. This is what we just promoted for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is Tamar Green. He plays George Washington in Hamilton. And he wanted to participate with us for MLK Day. And we've used this as a launch to announce our Black History Month of celebration. So Jill, you want to share his artistry?
Free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Go out and tell our story, let it echo far and wide, make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice justice was denied. Make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. 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 Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise their voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. 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 When they hear you, I'll be near you. Again.
Thank you, Jill. So that's the kind of content you can find on our Mann Music Room. And I think it says it all. I mentioned our Black History Month celebration coming up this month. We'll be celebrating the life of and honoring Reverend Dr. Lorena Marshall from Independence Foundation. We're focusing this Black History Month again on, we call it Voices of Hope, particularly on health and wellness in the community, the African American community. And we will be celebrating that with releasing 4 virtual performances over the month of February, one of gospel, one of hip hop, one of West African music, and one of jazz. So they'll be coming out over the Mann social media platforms as well. We'll be residing in our Mann Music Room virtual library. So that's coming. And then basically, Jill, Nancy, I know you're driving, you can't see this, but these are images of the man with the balloon drop. And this was Nancy's final day with the Mann when she was retiring after 20 years. And this was our gala in her honor. Beethoven 9 with Yannick Nizes again. We were only going to have the best for Nancy. And here we are, the celebratory balloon drop at the end, which was magical. So that's the end of my story today. Just a little bit about what's going on at the Mann. Lots of things we didn't have time to talk about because you could see I could talk about the Mann all day, all night. But I hope that gave you a flavor of who we are and what we've been doing in this new world.
Kathy, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm in the car. I just parked. Before I hop off, I have a doctor's appointment. But I just want to say, listening to you and all of the things that you have accomplished, we all, as Philadelphians, should take such tremendous pride in the Mann Center for the Performing Arts because there is nothing like it. We are the only city in the country that has a venue like the Mann. And what you have accomplished over these years, certainly makes me proud, and I hope it makes every single person on this call proud. And if they haven't been to the Mann, you all should certainly come back in 2021 when the Mann reopens, because it is truly a gem. So congratulations. I'm just so touched by the new programs that I'm so proud of you and of it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Really extraordinary.
Thank you. We are blessed with a terrific team, fantastic board, great people like yourselves who love and support this institution, who've been with us through thick and thin. But the most important thing, I think, the Mann, is that it's a place for everyone. It is a
Exactly.
and programming we are committed to make sure that it is accessible. If you can't come, we'll find a way to get you there for some of the programs that are free. Our price points on the lawn tend to still be very low. There's just so much for everyone, artistically, programmatically, educationally. We continue to invest in the campus to make sure it's a premier destination, and the experience that any audience has is world-class, first class. And we are trying to remain cognizant of how to serve a city that is very diverse. Our board right now is 34, almost 35% diverse. Our senior leadership team, very diverse. Our staffing model, growing and much more diverse than it was in years past. Our programming, clearly you can see, is more diverse. So we're very cognizant of the city and who we're serving. So what questions do you guys have? And I haven't seen all the chat because I couldn't see it while the PowerPoint is up. So I'm going to open that.
Nancy, before we start the questions, thank you so much. Congratulations. This is very inspiring, inspiring program from an inspirational woman for sure. So questions.
I'd just like to know how you possibly do it all. How I cannot imagine how one person has accomplished as much as you have. So that's not really a question, because I know you well enough to know that the answer is boundless energy and huge passion for the Mann. So I want to echo Chris's thank you and tell you that we are here for you, and I can't wait to get back to the Mann.
Well, thanks, Mary. I will tell you one thing. I want all your email addresses because I want to make sure we can invite you back to the Mann this year, and we'll get you on that list and send you fun stuff. And I don't know how many of you are social media savvy, but we're constantly putting stuff out all the time on our Facebook, Instagram, I don't know if we do TikTok. We probably do. Who the hell knows? But do we do TikTok, Joe? I don't know. All those.
Not that one. No, everything but.
But also, if we have your email address, you'll be getting notices. I will tell you, 21 is still in question. We do know we'll be open in April and May because we're doing some university graduations, and I'm not yet able to announce, but we will be bringing a major performing arts entity to the Mann. We suspect it could be slow in the summer, in the heat of the summer. So we'll continue with our education, whether it's virtual or in person or some hybrid. We're hoping by the latter part of the summer, we'll be concerts back on the stage and have the ability to bring audiences that feel confident and safe due to the vaccine. The finances are really important because if you are socially distanced and your inventory is too diminished, then it becomes a point of no return financially. It's cheaper to stay closed, quite frankly. That has its downsides, of course, after another year completely lost. We lost over $23 million this year from being closed. So, yeah, not easy for anybody. We certainly know we're not alone. So we got to survive this. We are positioned to survive the summer of 21. We went on a special campaign, and thank you for all of you who supported us, Justin, Mary especially, but of Nancy as well. We did a resiliency fund campaign to try to make up some of those losses. We cut expenses like crazy, laid people off, took salary cuts, furloughed people, all the things everybody else is doing. Went to all of our vendors and said, if you want to do business with us, you have to take a big haircut and really work to stabilize our cash position so we could get to the other side. And the question was, what was the other side going to look like? And frankly, nobody still knows. And so we're in scenario planning again. The first time in my life I've ever taken to my board next month 2 budgets for the next fiscal year, because I don't know which one's going to turn out. It'll probably be a little of both. Who knows, right? It's just until we have a better handle on consumer confidence, a proper vaccine rollout, and then again, we are governed by the health. Right now, you can only have 1,000 people outdoors. Can't put the keys in the door at the Mann for 1,000 people. But we can do the private events, and those are net profitable, and we don't lose money. But, yeah, Nancy.
Kathy, I'm just blown away by your resiliency and the reinventing and the breadth of programming that you provide at the Mann. And I guess when I think about the pivot to virtual through COVID, can you just talk a little bit about how you were able to do that? Because you really did it. I mean, I'm just blown away with the programming that you developed. And I'm trying to imagine how hard it was to sort of, take in the reality and then make the pivot. Can you talk about that and how you led that?
Sure. I'm going to keep going back to team sport, folks. I really am. So last March, things weren't looking so good. And it was still unclear. We told our staff mid-March, like everybody, time to go home, work from home. People thought it would be 2 weeks. Here we are. It's almost going to be a year later, at least. I sat down immediately with my senior team and said, we're going to have to do some scenario planning because my expression, I'm not smelling it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be business as usual, folks. So we did 4 different scenarios down to what happens if we have no season. And we built in all these provisions of what would it take to survive if we hit any of those 4 benchmarks. And there was a lot of sacrifice. I said layoffs, people lost jobs, all kinds of things. So we did that. And we also sat with the team and said, okay, what do we have that we are committed to sustaining, which gets back to that education circle that I showed you and talked about, those 3 areas of out of school time, workforce development, and creative placemaking. We said, okay, what can we figure out within the context of what we're starting to launch here that we can continue and figure out really technically what the heck we're going to do if we have to go virtual. So our education vice president started researching it. We had a chair of our education committee supporting us with additional funds. We went out and got a new platform that we had to buy to figure out how to literally create what you saw in that image of the kids and Yannick and then the CBS thing. We were pretty much at the head of the curve on that, and so much so that at the 11th hour, if you were watching, I felt so bad for Superintendent Height and the unions and the teachers when it came time to figure out what we were going to do this fall, the one we just passed, the one that's just passed, about school opening. They were talking up to the 11th hour, they were going to be open. And then at the final day almost, they said, oops, pull the plug, we're not. So the arts teachers and the programming that the school district still does have were completely blindsided. So literally they picked up the phone because we worked with them with the program you saw because they were a partner and said, you guys, Mr. Mann, Ms. Mann, learned how to do this. Will you come literally teach us, set it up, administer it, and structure it so that we can have our all-city orchestra and our city choir and all-city band, because we don't know how the hell to do it. So we did a contract with them and provided that service. So what the school system is now using is compliments of the Mann. So we're very proud of that, and it's been successful for them. And on the Mann Music Room front, again, that was a combination of my marketing director saying, okay, what are we going to look at? Or my education director, because initially, as I said, we thought it would be a vehicle to get education out. And then we started to realize, but wait a minute, we have a historian, we have all this history. I said, how do we share that and keep people engaged? Oh, we have artists that are telling their stories. How do we share those? So we had all these ideas starting to come in to the senior team to say, what's possible? Then the question is, what vehicles do you need to make it possible? So that's where you saw that Mann Music Room launch. And now the challenge is putting content in it. So we've created a monster and now we got to feed it, right? And the truth of the matter is there's so many artists out of work right now. So that's the fact that Smar Green would come on our Mann Music Room for MLK Day. He's bloody on Hamilton. Well, he's not right now because nothing's happening. So there are a lot of artists who are looking to get their music and their artistry out. We're paying very little, but we want to pay something because we know we have a lot of artists in need. So we've established, I think, a responsible platform as far as acknowledging local artists. We're particularly trying to find Philadelphia artists where we can. And just trying to understand what are the needs and continuing surveying and monitoring public perceptions, because that's our marketing director does a lot of that kind of data analysis. Where are we with our social media consumption? It's down because people primarily follow the Mann in the summer for what do we have on stage. So how do we stay connected to them? How do we keep our board engaged? How do we keep our donors engaged? So we did this virtual gala, that one little clip that I showed you with the red curtain, that was part of an hour-long that was a labor of love to get that damn thing done. So it's just trying to figure out, but what we have learned is that it is likely that even when we return to some sort of new normal, video content consumption is going to continue. People have learned to get it, and they've learned, by the way, to get it for free, and there's so much out there. So we're going to have to compete in that marketplace, and we're going to have to figure out how to resource that. And so I'm looking to put on somebody on the staff who literally is going to be our video go-to person, because we've been doing this sort of piecemeal because we never had anybody on staff. We never had a demand for it. So in spite of ourselves, we look pretty good. But it's not a way to run a railroad. So we know we're going to have to invest and get that piece of the business properly supported to take on those kinds of requirements. So that's our fiscal year starts March 1. That's in the to-do list. And so that's sort of what we're doing now to make sure that we have the capacity to keep feeding the monster that we had to create out of necessity. Otherwise, we would have been dormant. And I don't know, that's how we do it, sort of one day at a time. My facility director, her favorite line is worry in sequence. So, when I get ahead of myself or I'm ahead of my skis, as I shouldn't be, she's like, worry in sequence. I said, you're right, Pat, and just ratchet it back. I'm going to worry in sequence.
Are there ways to earn income virtually through all these YouTube and all these things? I don't know, but obviously you've thought about it and dug into it. But
it's a great question. We have not chosen to make our online content available for purchase.
Yep.
Again, initially it was for arts education and for disadvantaged audiences and young people. So the stuff we're putting out right now is not for sale. I have to tell you that so many nonprofits who are trying that, the costs to get it up and running at a professional level that has to be of the caliber of Netflix, you know what I mean? Has to look like Hollywood, is so cost prohibitive depending on the nature of the beast that you may not see that in a return from the time you create the product, pay the artists, pay the production company, get the platforms, do the marketing, So I don't know for a lot of arts organizations how profitable it is. I think a lot of them are doing it because they have to stay connected to their audiences and donors.
And
If
so much music is
enough,
available anyway online for free, right?
Exactly. If you're fortunate enough, one of the Mann's challenges, I'll be honest with you, is we don't have an archive we're not the Metropolitan Opera that archived everything for the last 50 years.
Right,
and you can pump that stuff out. We don't have any archives. Okay. So I hired a part-time historian about 4 years ago for the Mann, recognizing we have a 50th anniversary coming up in 2026. And our stuff was sitting in boxes in North Philadelphia warehouses. It was a disgrace and had been there for decades. Disgrace. So I said, this is, again, no way to run a railroad. We got experts in, did an analysis. What do we have to do? Can we do this in bite-sized pieces? We don't have the money, but we know we have an obligation to steward this content. So the vault section where we talk about putting out the history and those kinds of things, the pictures that I put at the beginning that Jill put in at the beginning of showing you the old, when the Mann was being built, that's all coming from our historian who's had the time to start to catalog and properly input data into the Mann's archives. It is by far done. There's a ton more work to do. You've got decades and decades of neglect. So we're struggling because we don't have something I can pull back and say, oh, there's a 1976 performance with Van Cliburn, or there's the recording with Yo-Yo Ma. We don't have any of that. So we have to make it up. And so that's where we're at. So I don't think, frankly, Christine, we're going to ever be a big player in the digital world because we don't have enough content.
Got it. Yeah, understand.
So we got to pick and choose our poison here. So that's the best we got is the music room right now. People seem to like it. 50,000 hits is not bad for where we don't put any money into it at all because, we stripped all our budgets bare. So it's all what we call organic pushing out on social media, which means you're not paying to get it targeted to who you want it to get to. Because we just don't want to spend the money this year. We're in like austerity mode. Jill's nodding. Yeah, sure it is.
Do we have time for another question?
Sure.
I'm just, you're a classically trained musician. And how do you balance classical music versus pop or modern music in your programming and in your access to it? Getting classical music, getting pop music. How do you balance those two? What's your vision?
Well, I'll share a funny story with you. It just stays amongst this room. Mary may remember this from Justin sharing the story or not. When they were interviewing me, I was working in New York and I came down to meet with the Mann board, and I did my undergraduate work at Temple back in the day in the late 70s. I rode my bike out as a music student and clipped coupons out of the newspaper to get the free tickets to sit on the lawn to hear the Great Philadelphia Orchestra. I was one of those kids that lined up along the Academy wall for the $2 tickets up in the nosebleed section. Okay, that was your hot date on Saturday. Every night you went to the orchestra. That was it. It was like, oh my God, I'm gone to heaven. So I remembered the man. But frankly, and I'll just say this without it being in any way negative, the man had lost its luster at a certain window of time. It had gotten stale. And when you looked at some of the other bigger music festivals like Ravinia or Hollywood Bowl, or Tanglewood, the man was never mentioned in those circles. And that's the world I had gotten into. I ran the Grand Park Music Festival in Chicago. We were the premier summer music festival on the waterfront, and Ravinia was right up the street with its $100 million endowment in very wealthy North Highland Park. So I was very aware, and I had interned at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center in grad school. I was very aware of sort of the summer music festival scene. And the man's name wasn't on anybody's short list. It wasn't on any list. And that was shocking to me. And when Justin and the board asked me to come in and interview, one of the questions I asked them was, what was their vision and commitment to the man? Because I said, I'm not prepared or interested in coming to basically run a roadhouse. And by that, it just means taking rock and roll shows. They come on your stage, they get on their bus and they leave. The next show comes in, they get on their bus and they leave. That was not of interest to me. So I was not interested in the roadhouse. And I will tell you, Nancy, I use that as an example because it is very easy to fall into that pattern because that's where the maybe money is. The margins now on the rock and roll shows are so thin, and you can lose your shirts in the night when there's, the place is packed and you think, wow, the man's making all this money. Nope, the artist fee was too high. Oop, the weather was lousy. They didn't drink. Oops, we didn't sell enough of the high price tickets. There's a million variables. It's a high risk business, really high risk business. So there's this balance of what is that risk and how much of the cultural programming, which loses money, can you afford to do where the balance starts to tip? And you've got this precarious earned revenue component off the rock and roll shows, which can really shock you if you're not careful, even with the best laid plans and experts. I would love to see us doing more cultural programming. That's the word I use, but I will not do stuff that nobody's going to come to. Right? There's nothing more demoralizing for the artist on stage, and for sure as hell, you're sitting in the audience and going, like, I'm the only one here. In the middle of that, we're losing our shirts. And we have 14,000 seats to fill every night, and we're not a subscription house. So, you have to eat what you kill every night. It's a really tough model. So we are looking, when we do classical concerts, I'm the one who said we have to start doing movies. Did I want the Great Philadelphia Orchestra playing movies? I said, well, you know what? If they're playing great film scores and it's John Williams and it's, all these other great composers, we did West Side Story. It's Bernstein, for Christ's sake. Hey, everybody, get over yourself. We're going to be a little more populist. Yeah. We're going to get families and audiences there who would not go into the Kimmel. They just won't go for whatever obstacle that's there that they don't feel welcome or they can't afford it or whatever. Do I wish I had 3 or 4 more weeks of the Philadelphia Orchestra with great conductors and great soloists? Yeah, if we had $100 million endowment and we could afford to do that and subsidize tickets and do everything else under the sun, would be lovely. What has been interesting is, and I didn't mention this to the group, I kind of got off track. I mentioned 4 stages. Quickly, I'll just tell you what that's about. So there's the main stage that everybody knows, and you come and you see what's happening on the big main stage. Fabulous acoustics, all the sight lines. There's the Skyline stage that we invested in as an experiment, and it's been going gangbusters. Summer of 19, we actually went outside our gates and took in a lot more property and brought the Roots Picnic and put a giant third stage outside our gates and had all of our stages operating all day long in a massive marathon festival. 20,000 plus people came, people of color, huge generator of jobs, put the man on the map. We had people from all over the country because it was a big deal. That's our new third stage. That's a concept we're going to continue to roll out. But back to your question about artistic issues, when we did the Du Yun, the 2011 performance that I told you became a Pulitzer Prize work that was by this Chinese American composer, we did that. I said, let's do it in the round on stage. The stage is huge, as I said. So we put little stages inside the center of our stage, and then we can surround that with like 300 seats. And so we are now going to formalize that into a series called Downstage, where we are able to put like 300 people in the round and do intimate programming So the Bill T. Jones project I meant is going to be in the round. We were going to bring Sweet Honey in the Rock. It's a small gospel choir of Black women who do fantastic gospel music. We were going to bring Time for Three, who is a small group of 3 players who started at Curtis that got their start at the Mann. And we're looking at possibly, any of you who watched the Royal Wedding a couple years ago, the Black cellist Sheku, Kana Mason, who played, his whole family, they're musical. We were bringing Sheku to play with the orchestra. We wanted to bring his sister and his brother and do piano trios and a little chamber music evening. So we're trying to turn the stage into a black box, for lack of any other word, without building a black box, and start to do intimate programming. We were just talking with, there's a great choral group in Philadelphia called The Crossing. You may be familiar with them. They do a lot of incredible avant-garde work and socially responsible work. So we were talking to them about what they're doing. It's expensive to do because you can't make enough money with 300 seats. It has to be underwritten. We started to find underwriting, and we want to launch that and grow that, because I think that's another element for the Mann to be able to program with innovative programming that is both versatile, multicultural, meets different audiences and art forms. That's not rock and roll. Is it the classical music that I would love to see every night at the Mann? No, but I think it has its purpose. Yeah. And the biggest struggle we have is with the orchestra, making sure we can get audiences for the purely classical nights. And how many times can you do Beethoven? Or how many times can you do Tchaikovsky with fireworks? And how many times, so we struggle with those all classical nights to make them successful. And you've got the great orchestra playing down the street, maybe up until 2 weeks before it's time for the Mann to put them on our stage. So, it's not like there's been a shortage of having the great Philadelphia Orchestra available to hear, but we'd love to get an audience that's different, that would find the outdoor setting more inviting and more comfortable and less formal, right? So that's the struggle. And we don't know what's going to happen with them this year. We have a call with them next week, quite frankly, and find out where their heads are at as far as what are their players willing to do in COVID. Mm-hmm. And what kind of audiences are we even allowed to have? We don't know yet. Right now it's 1,000. You can't put the keys in the door for 1,000 people for a show. You'll go bankrupt because you've got stagehands that belong to the union. So it's another year of scenario planning, as I mentioned. So that's where we're at.
Like,
challenging.
You are an inspiration. I mean, it's just mind-bending how much you've accomplished in adversity and with creativity. So thank you for sharing all of this with us. You are an inspirational woman.
For sure. Couldn't agree more. Mary, do you have a few words to say in closing? Kathy, first of all, thank you for putting up with all of our technology difficulties. And thank you for staying so late. I mean, obviously, everyone's enjoying it.
Well, I appreciate that, Christine. And Mary, when you reached out, I was honored, as I said at the beginning, to be included. And luckily, I know a number of you over the years, which is so nice to see everybody, because it's gotten kind of lonely in this isolated world. I don't know how you all feel. Getting old, really, kind of like ready for this to be over. But I would love, Jill, if you could get Mary, everyone's email address with your blessing. We'll get you on our mailing list. Mary, it would be fun, assuming we're open this summer and we actually have something that we can make work for this group. Please come out as our guests and bring your spouses, significant others, and let's have fun together and continue to be inspired.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. We are way over time, so I'm going to let you go. I cannot wait to get to the Ellen Reed Sound Walk and the music room, the history section, and I have copious notes about all the things I want to do. And Kathy, of course, we'll get you the email list, and we will be thrilled to take you up on your invitation. So,
all right, everyone,
and thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Anytime.
It's a huge thank you to you. Thank you.
I'm glad we worked out the issues. It was really good to see everybody.
Yes.
Thanks, Lisa. We appreciate all your help as well. And Jill, of course.
And to Jill.
Jill, thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.